Good morning. Welcome to Experience Liberia. I'm one host of the show. My name is Ken. Uh, you know that we started this YouTube channel about 2 weeks ago. We said we'd be bringing content where we'll be sharing the culture of Liberia, the art, the food, the people, and just to give a broad spectrum of what Africa is like to the African Americans that's living in America and those throughout the world. Um, I've been following a lot of content of people that's like-minded like myself. Donnie Samir, Search for Uru, The Bag, Black Acres of the Gambia, Black Sid, Dr. Mumbi Saraki, Watamaya, The Unapologetic Nomads, and the list goes on and on. I forget some other people that I'm subscribed to. Um, but I'm seeing this disconnection of what we truly supposed to be doing. Those who are leaving the diaspora, regardless of where you came from, and you're going to Africa. Africa is comprised of 54 countries, right? Each country is different. The culture, the people, but yet and still, we pretty much are the same. We have been oppressed by a systemic system. We've been categorized as the lowest of the low, the worst of the worst. But isn't it funny that the very people that they talk about, who they label us as the scum of the earth, basically, they still find themselves being attached to us. So we must ask ourselves, there's nothing wrong with us, but there's something got to be wrong with them. Something got to be wrong with the people, the very people that call us the scum of the earth, find themselves always having to be attached to us. Why is that? Why is that, family? Is it because they have no sense of themselves? Is it because they understand that we're cheap labor and we're something that can be just thrown about, misused, mishandled? Or is it because of the simple fact is that they know that without us, they wouldn't be able to survive? So that's a question. Um, I'm aware of what happened over in the Gambia with the sister Art Kathy, and because I subscribed and I watched her show, me and my mother-in-law, we used to watch it. Um, and I'm not here to cast judgment on anyone, but I understand both sides of the fence. And we have to ask ourselves, where does this stuff stem from? Truly, where does it stem from? Because we're supposed to be coming together to build a bridge, to work together, to create something to put us back in the forefront of where we used to be. Because we all know, even though they don't tell the history, we all know that civilization started in Africa. We all know that we was the first ones on the planet. We all know, or excuse me, well, we should know these things. What we should know that the African American, or the African queen, the black woman, the melanated goddess, carries the only gene, as a female on the planet, she carries. That is the mitochondrial DNA gene. If I butcher that, don't think I butchered the pronunciation of it. But she carries this. With that, she carried that gene for all the races on the planet. She carries this. So, there's a lot of factors that we can look at. There's a lot of truths out there that we only have bits and pieces to. And people that firmly believe in, they tell their truth and they dismiss one part of the pie and you get another part of the pie. We must understand that we had the whole truth. And when they came to our community, society, country, ancestors was there and they was living far beyond their imagination. We gave them the tools to do this. We gave them the knowledge, which they tried to dismiss. Even going back to, how could I say, in Egypt, all of these things we did, astronomy, anesthesiology, indoor plumbing, irrigation. We did this stuff. We did this stuff. They know it to be true. And you must ask yourself, how is it that if you did it, and if your people did it, and y'all was so strong in your culture, why haven't you been able to replicate these things? Come on now. Come on. We have to understand that there's a war going on, and we're in the midst of that war, and we're being played like pawns. We're being played like pawns. And we have to fix this situation, because if we don't, we're going to find ourselves back in the same situation. We have to learn from our past, and you have to know your enemy. You have to know their tactics. I'm not bragging and I'm not boasting by any means, but I've always had that mentality that no one is better than me, and I am no better than no one else. As far as living wise, as far as being able to do my daily functions, to interact with other people. Now, when I played sports, yes, I had the chip on my shoulder. I'm the best thing since sliced bread, and that's okay when you're competing athletically, because you need to have that edge and you need to think about that. But as far as in day-to-day society, when you look over and you see a family of whatever race or color it is, that's still a family, and they're no better than you. We're all here to try to survive. We're all here to try to get along. And we are the most loving and trusting people on the planet. Dr. John Henry Clarke said it best. If you want a friend, look in the mirror. Look in the mirror. I said it before, and I'm going to say it again. Africa has always been the prize. Africa has always been the prize. They have made us to feel that we are so inferior that we don't even want to go and acknowledge our culture and our presence. Then you have some Africans that's there. They uphold their culture wholeheartedly, but yet and still, you still have a mind mentality to treat others the same way as the European. Or you'll look at them, not all, but some will look at them as if they are the best thing since sliced bread. And you should never judge a book by its cover. You should never judge a book by its cover. Just because you see them and you see me, you give them better treatment than you give your own brother that looked like you. And I've been thinking about this stuff for quite some time, man, and I was like, do I do this video for my people out here? Because I know this wasn't a part of the content, but yet and still it's a part of Experience Liberia because the slaves that was freed left and went to Liberia. Uh, so it ties in with it. And so I was wanting to just to talk about this stuff because I feel that it's relevant today. And a lot of us is being very dismissive toward each other on their points, where they're coming from, where they're talking about spiritualism, where they're talking about who has the best food and all that stuff. That's irrelevant right now. We know that we created it, because I heard something, and this is no knock to no one. We have heard them say, and I heard it since I've been in America, that, oh, it's the white man's religion and this, that, and the third. But where did he get it from? All of his knowledge that he has, where did he get it from? You have to ask yourself that. If we was the first one on the planet, and we was the first one mapping out the stars and telling time and working the land and doing all these things, where did he get his sense of spiritualism from? If he did not get it from the first ones that was on the planet. Yes, when they captured us and they took us, and this is just my opinion, and they gave us back the so-called white man's religion, it was ours. It was ours before they had it. They didn't even understand how to break it down. And they gave us this. So we must be mindful of how we interact with each other, because we can agree to disagree, and we can have an articulate conversation without being to get on here and to build and just to go off on each other. One, if we having an intelligent conversation, it makes us look bad with all of the degrees that we get and all of these accolades or monikers behind our name and all that stuff. It makes us look bad, because you can have a debate, have a difference of an opinion without tearing your brother and sister down. And I've been seeing a lot of this that's going on in this community of trying to bridge the gap between Africa and the diaspora. If we don't stop it, we're going to take that same mind mentality, that same sickness back over there, and it's going to cause problems like it's starting to stir up now. And it puts other that doesn't have that mindset in a bad way. It puts us in a bad light. And I'm not saying nobody is not, if they have their opinion, you know what I'm saying, and what they feel may be true, because a person's truth is their truth. And we must understand that. But also there's ways of if you're going to criticize, you can do it constructively, in a sense and in a manner, or where you can build, or where you can help. And if they don't want it, then you can say, okay, well, you know what? I'm going to show you a better way. This is how I'm going to do this. It's always about implementation, being able to stick your neck out, to be able to show people, okay, this is what I'm looking for. I learned that in the military growing up, is that you don't send your soldiers out there without giving them a blocking instructions and showing them what right looks like. And then you ask them, do you understand the task that you've been given? Do you understand the mission? Okay. If not, say so now so you can understand it. Don't send him out there and expect him to do it he never seen or know what you're talking about. That's the time where you teach, you build, and you show. Then the next time he goes out there, not saying he's going to get 100% right, but he's going to be more familiar with what it is he needs to do. This is what we have to take on. This is what we got to do. This is how you build. But let me read something here. I don't know. And to me, this is my opinion once again, one of the greatest things that was very detrimental to the African American and Africans worldwide. And it happened in 1712. And a lot of people may know by a man named Willie Lynch. Some people may not know, but it's the Willie Lynch letters. Now, a lot of you are going to say, well, what does that have to do about anything? But I'm going to read this to you, and I want you to think. Okay. If you don't know, this is it. It's a small pamphlet that you can get, right? This is true, by the way. And it started off, and it says, this speech was delivered by a white slave owner, William Lynch, on the banks of the James River in 1712. And the message is still true today. By William Lynch. And it starts off, gentlemen, I greet you here on the banks of the James River in the year of our Lord, 1712. First, I shall thank you, gentlemen, of the colony of Virginia for bringing me here. I am here to help you solve some of your problems with slaves. Your invitation reached me on my modest plantation in the West Indies, where I have experimented with some of the newest and still the oldest methods for control of slaves. Ancient Rome would envy us if my program is implemented. As our boat sails south of the James River, named for our illustrious king, whose version of the Bible we cherish, I saw enough that your problems is not unique. While Rome used cords of wood and crosses for the standing human bodies alone, its old highways in great numbers. You are here using the tree and the rope on occasion. Now, let me stop right here. He was invited. His invitation reached him on his modest plantation in the West Indies. Right? Then he went so far to say that Rome would envy his program if it was implemented. Okay. I caught a whiff of a dead slave hanging from a tree a couple miles back. You are not only losing valuable stock by hangings, you are having uprisings, slaves are running away, your crops are sometimes left in the fields too long for maximum profit. You suffer occasional fires, your animals are killed. Gentlemen, you know what your problems are. I do not need to elaborate. I am not here to enumerate your problems. However, I am here to introduce to you a method of solving them. It says, so let me go back, right? He said that you're not only losing valuable stock by hangings, you're having uprisings, slaves are running away, your crops are being destroyed. So it wasn't a simple fact that we wasn't fighting back. We wasn't trying to get our freedom. We weren't trying to just be submissive and docile. We always had that fighting spirit within us. Okay? We had that. Until Mr. Lynch. Listen up. Listen closely to this. In my bag here, I have a foolproof method for controlling your black slaves. I guarantee every one of you that if installed correctly, it will control slaves for at least 300 years. My method is simple. Any member of your family or your overseer can use it. He said he has a program. If implemented, it would control your slaves for at least 300 years. Now, we all know that the slaves was in bondage for 400 years. I have outlined a number of differences amongst the slaves, and I take these differences and make them bigger. I use fear, distrust, and envy for control purposes. I want you to listen to that. That's key right there. Fear, distrust, and envy. Isn't that some of the biggest problems that we have amongst ourselves? Fear, distrust, and envy. Instead of you trying to come together and build, if you made it out, give back, to inspire. And I'm not saying that we don't do it, but how many and how much? And I don't want to hear that, well, you keep trying and these people here, it doesn't matter. You got to continue to put that time in. If you don't do nothing but save one. I know a lot of people don't believe in the Bible, right? But what happened when Abram was, just before his name got turned to Abraham, God was going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. And Abraham pleaded with him and said, God, what if I go and find 100, 50? So the numbers kept getting smaller and smaller down. He said, would you save them? He went so far, I think he went down so far, it was one. If you find one soul that's worthy over there, I would save them. So we have to have that same mind mentality, because all it takes is one. That very soul that you can save, that you can implement to change their mindset, to bridge their gap, can do wonders for the world. We don't know. We all was born with a gift. We have to find our purpose. Somebody has given us the opportunity. Our ancestors has given us the opportunity to be here. They suffered. They went through. So we have to break that mind mentality. We got to stop being distrustful, fear, and envying one another. But you don't do it against your oppressor, the one that you know. Let's look at the Native Americans. My great-grandmother is full-blooded Cherokee. Full-blooded Cherokee from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Just look at them. Look at their plight. Look how many treaties that the white man broke with them. Look how many. But yet and still, we'll put more trust in them than we do for our very selves that sit around us in our communities, and we're going through the same thing. Going through the same thing. But we refuse to trust in them. We got to change. We got to change. Let me finish. I'm not trying to make this long, but I'm trying to get to the heart of the matter of why we have problems and why we're not building the way we should be building. These methods have worked on my modest plantation in the West Indies, and it will work throughout the South. Take this simple list of differences and think about them. On top of my list is age, but it is there only because it starts with an A. The second is color or shade. There is intelligence, size, sex, size plantation, status on plantation, attitude of owners, whether the slaves live in the valley, on the hill, east, west, north, south, have fine hair, coarse hair, or is tall or short. Now that you have a list of differences, I shall give you an outline of action. But before that, I shall assure you that distrust, I say again, distrust, I say again, distrust is stronger than trust, and envy is stronger than trust, excuse me. Distrust is stronger than trust, and envy is stronger than adulation, respect, or admiration. Did you get that? I shall assure you that distrust is stronger than trust, and envy is stronger than adulation, respect, or admiration. Now, this has been proven by this man in a modest plantation in the West Indies. And he guaranteed that if this method is implemented, it will set our race back for 300 years or more. He guaranteed it. Okay. The black slave, after receiving this indoctrination, shall carry on and will become self-refueling and self-regenerating for hundreds of years, maybe thousands. Don't forget, you must pitch the old black male versus the young black, and the young black male against the old black male. You must use the dark-skinned slave versus the light-skinned slaves, and the light-skinned slave versus the dark-skinned slave. You must use the female versus the male, and the male versus the female. You must also have your white servants and overseers distrust all blacks. But it is necessary that your slaves trust and depend on us. They must love and respect and trust only us. But then I just mentioned that, but we'll turn around and we would trust them, even though we know that they're not to be trusted. Just because of the simple fact of what they have, the trinkets, the car, the money. But not realizing that their mindset is always, for majority of them, is what they saw in us. Not to be considered as human, less worthy,